Hear from people tonight. Wanted to definitely be a evening in which we share about pride and what we're proud of and our uniqueness. And you have some wonderful, unique people with us on the show tonight.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Thomas, and it's good to have all of you with us. And I want to welcome all of you who are watching on as many as 200 Facebook groups and pages. Thank you, John and Summer Raymer and the Sign Network for making that happen. You know, just listening to that song about how we all come together, and boy, tonight's show is all about that. We're celebrating Pride Month. And I'm really excited because some of my absolute favorite human beings are with us tonight. And I'm really looking forward to having them kind of share what they're proud of or what pride means to them, I should say, and what they are proud of. And to just really drop into the reality as we are a very open-minded global peace tribe here, and all people are welcome. So thank you for being with us. And I am going to start right off by turning it over to Reverend Becky Suzik. I'll do a bigger introduction a little bit later in the show, but she's somebody I have tremendous love and respect for. And Becky, I know this is a topic that's close to your heart, and I would love for you to do an opening blessing for us.
Thank you so much, Scott, and welcome everyone. If you have a candle or an electric candle nearby and it would bring you joy and affirmation, you're invited to light it with us right now. I have this candle and I honor, first of all the people who have suffered, all the people who have been harmed or even killed because they were denied the right of who they are. So I light this candle. And the words that I'm going to share are called the Pride Flame, and it was written by Linda Lee Franson. So I'll light this. We light this flame to ignite our hearts and minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmering hope that burns, the blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace, for those who have fought to marry, that they may celebrate, for those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may have hope. We light this flame to alight our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light this flame.
You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged, oh I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. Your true colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Show me a smile then, and don't be unhappy. Can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, then call me up, 'cause you know I'll be there. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. Your true colors are beautiful, like the rainbow. This world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, then you can call me up, 'cause you know I'll be there, and I'll see your true colors shining through. I'll see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. I'll see your true colors. Your true colors beautiful. I'll see your true colors shining through. I'll see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. I'll see your true colors. Your true colors are beautiful, like the rainbow.
Thank you so much, Omashar, for sharing your true colors, which is always about love. You are one of the most loving men I've ever known.
Thank you, brother. It's, yeah, it takes a family of love to know a family of love, and here we are.
Absolutely. All of a sudden, I realized I wanted to wear this shirt because it's got the colors. And you were saying, I said, "Oh my God, I've got to change my shirt." So,
Me too.
well, I intentionally didn't put the spotlight on my co-host Trish because I wanted to have a little bit of fanfare because we all get to see a different side of our beloved co-host Trish. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I've come on here a couple times as my male version, and I think that it's important for me to show up in what's most authentic all the time. I think some of you have heard some of the stories that I've told about, being a young child and like throwing a fit with my mom. Have you heard this story? I'll tell you anyway. Around, being, 7 or 8 and just multiple fits of, I wasn't supposed to be a girl. This is unfair. And my mom going, gotta work with what you got, girl. And I was like, and since then there's always been some masculine sides to me, a very gendered, balanced side. And I often, and maybe you don't know this, but I don't go by she or her specifically. I'm sort of gender non-conforming. I'm not going to debate how you see me, but I don't have the need to be he, she, they, them, is all the pronoun aspects, because it's not really what matters about me. There's other things that really truly connect me to you than my gender or my sex.
I get to introduce one of my absolute favorite human beings of all time. She is someone I will love for the rest of my life. I had the good fortune to spend many years partnering with her, and she is fun. She knows how to have fun and pleasure, but it hasn't always been that way. And so I like to introduce Heart Ninja Emily. And welcome, Em. Thank you so much. The moment I knew we were doing this show, I was really hoping you'd be on the show with us. And then I saw your pictures on Facebook from the Pride Parade and Festival. And I was like, oh yeah, thank God Emily's going to be here. So, but I would love for you to share your story also. And you can go into a little bit more detail because a lot of people are still in various stages of coming out. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think what I want to say is, like, what does pride mean to me is, like, if you don't fit in the box of cisgender normative box, right? Or even the box of what is socially acceptable, and you are something of kind of out of the box, I consider that you're probably a part of the rainbow, right? And often being outside that box, you are faced with being like inflicted with more judgment and also not having equal rights. And I think that's why we have to stand together and be loud and out, so accept people that don't feel safe to come out, because the reality is we are a minority and we are a marginalized community. And it's important for us to be able to be like, hey, there are not equal health rights, right? For like people on, in the trans community, like there are not equal rights for marriage rights. There are these things that we need to understand, like we don't have equal rights and that's why I think it's important for us to be out and loud and proud. For instance, I got a lot of stuff this month I'm pretty active on social media about, like, why do you feel you have to be so full of yourself? Like, why do you have to, be so out and loud about this? And, like, I'm not throwing a big thing about being straight and that I need to make a big deal about, myself. And I was thinking to myself, awesome. Like, you don't have to do that. And there are like many of us that don't have equal rights or that are marginalized and extremely judged for being, you know, on the queer spectrum, where it's like it takes a lot of courage to be able to come out and be like, hey, like I do have a right to be able to, you know, like marry who I want to marry. I do have a right to modify my body the way that I want to modify. I do have the right to choose how I want to love. I have the right to choose how I want to identify. And because I don't have that right, I'm not, you know, I have a right to have a voice around it, right? And to be a stand so that we can actually create more equal rights, so that we can create more unity, so that we can create more, you know, safety for also us that don't fit in the box to be accepted. And so that's the first thing I want to say about that. And my journey of coming out has been a varying degree of coming out. And I find that as I've talked to more and more people that are on the queer spectrum or that have gone through understanding themselves, it is a process usually of finding out what is that to you? How do you feel inside? Like what's important? How do you want to love? How do you feel about your own sexuality? How do you want to run your sexual energy? How do you want to run your relationship energy? Like, you know, and we're just fed like, oh, when you're born, because you have this genitalia, this is how you should operate. Because like monogamy and this way of relating is the normal thing. And like, it's the same sex thing. This is like these are the boxes that are the options. And I think if we don't fit into those options, there's a lot of ways that we can shame and make ourselves wrong, right? And then what we try to do is we try to manipulate ourselves. We try to change ourselves. Like for a long time, for me, because I have a really strong masculine energy, but I had a lot of like, oh, it's not okay to be like this. It's not okay to be vocal. It's not okay to be confrontational. It's not okay to have big dick energy. You know, I need to change myself to be more feminine. I need to change myself to be more, you know, compassionate and soft. And there was this part of me that was like in that. And it was like, wasn't until I actually got into the sex positive revolution where it's like, oh, I am both masculine and feminine. I'm gender fluid queer. Like I actually identify as both. And I'm going to stop changing or trying to fix myself to fit into this box that's not true for me. And once I really got that, and I was like, oh, and also I grew up like from a very young age playing with women, with girls, like as a young child, like it was really normal until I was shamed by my brother, you know, and it was one of the most loving relationships I had a secret hidden relationship with a woman for a year. And I was publicly shamed by like him and 8 of his friends, like, oh my God, this is so disgusting. This is so wrong. This is so, and there was this part of me is like, oh, okay, like I can't show this part, like that's wrong. I'm going to be, you know, go into the heteronormative box. And what happened is like, I shut down that part of me. And the way it started coming out is I would be extremely judgmental to women. And it wasn't until I actually looked at the reason I had so much judgment was because I was repressing my own sexuality. And once I really got that, and I was like, oh, I'm actually like I'm not only bisexual, I'm pansexual, which means I relate and have sexual arousal and feelings to people beyond their gender. It's more about relating to their being. But it was a big piece to actually embrace, like, I also am bisexual. And once I really embraced that, it was like all my judgment around all the repression that I had around that it wasn't okay to run my sexual energy that way. It really was a huge liberation in really coming into my empowered feminine, but also like my love of women. So that was a big part of also like embracing my journey. And then, yeah, being able to go, yeah, I'm not just feminine, I'm also masculine. And that can be, I'm on a spectrum, right? And sometimes I might want to dress up as masculine. Sometimes I want to, and people will often say like, I can't keep track of you, Emily. Like some of you're in pigtails and then you're like wearing suits and like, what? Like, and it's like, yeah, I can't keep track of myself either. I'm everything. And it's like, there's a lot of ways that my energy wants to express. And by embracing the full spectrumality of myself, like that means I feel more in my own power. That might not work for you, but ultimately I feel that that's what we're giving permission to. Like pride is like, I get to be a stand for my truth, what works for me, how I want to run my sexual energy, how I want to identify, and how I want to show up and cultivate and create the relationships that I want.
Mm.
And that's where it's like we all have a right to choose.
Mm. Emily, thank you so much. And we're going to hear more from Emily for sure. I'm wondering, would you be willing to introduce your friend Katerina? Because we're going to call on her next. And I thought it might be fun for you to kind of tell us a little bit about her.
Katerina, well, I've only met Katerina once, and I met her at a party with a good friend, Kamala Devi. And immediately the first, we were already naked and in the hot tub together. And so basically very just sex positive, open. And I actually started getting to know her more from afar by seeing her as a public, voice for growth, and also for, being, vocal and loud and out about who she is, and being very pro-queer, also polyamorous. And so like, I was like, wow, this is a beautiful, incredible soul. And the more that I felt her coming out and being a voice for who she is, she was inspiring me to be like, wow, I'm safe to come out more, even myself. And I think that's where I want to really say is like, this is not about being like coming out and trying to be full of ourselves. And I get that judgment a lot. Like, it's just, you're just like trying to get validation, or you're just trying to this is about like giving a voice that, yeah, we are different and we have a right to like shine and be included and belong here, and that like, that's powerful. And, by us coming out, it's not just about ourselves. It's like, we are giving a permission slip to the rest of the people out there that feel like marginalized or ashamed of who they are, that they can feel like that they belong to. So Katerina, thank you for inspiring me. And I want to hear more about your journey coming out. And thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily. I could almost say ditto to almost everything you said in your talk. I was just thinking, wow, it's so similar in so many ways. And it's been a journey, I used to live and identify as a man who was pretty repressed and really didn't share much of myself with the outside world. I was really quite withdrawn and shy and very introverted. You wouldn't catch me singing in public or anything like that. And at a certain point, something shifted, and I realized I'd sort of been waiting to die and hoping, the thought of living another 30 years didn't quite cut it. And I needed to start to change. And as I did, I really got caught up on the idea of changing from male to female. And so that was my real focus for about a year and a half. And this was about the time when I was ending that process, was about the time I got into the sacred sexuality community through Kamala Devi. And it's like something pieced itself together in me, where when my transition was complete and I felt that I had become like a trans woman as much as I wanted, and I identified now as female, I realized I kind of felt the same as I did before. I had just moved from one box to another box, but I was still in a box, and I was repressing parts of myself. And there had been a time in the transition process that there was an elation about it, because I was adding new things and I was growing and expanding. And when I really felt into it, what it was I had finally given myself permission to just be myself and just try things on without having to mean something. I had this philosophy of just give myself permission to do the things I want today. And it doesn't have to say anything about me, and it doesn't mean that I need to do it tomorrow. And this gave me a great way to move into spaces I wouldn't have felt otherwise comfortable for fear of how I'd be judged by the outside world. And there was a time that I took my daughter to the beach and was pushing her on a boogie board, and she was having a great ride, and I was laughing and smiling and And it hit me, this was the first time I'd ever laughed and smiled in public without feeling really self-conscious about it. And I was just joyful and exuberant. And so I moved from the female box to the two-spirit box, which feels like a very good fit. I enjoy being as masculine as I want, and I enjoy being as feminine as I want. I prefer presenting female because I just love it. But I want to internally flow, because that to me is freedom. And I think trans people are a microcosm of society. And this is why we're so polarizing. Why queer people in general are so polarizing is because it's sex and sexuality and gender are the earliest forms and the most powerful forms of conditioning we have. So for someone to cast off that conditioning is a clear signal that people are free at their core and they can cast off any conditioning they choose. Because if we can do this, it really buys the freedom for everyone, I think. And scary. Freedom is scary. It's been the terrifying road to walk, to think I don't have any models to follow. You know, once I broke out of both boxes, it was like I can't even follow other queer people because everybody is trying their own unique thing, their own style. It's their soul vibration. And I need to find my soul vibration. And that's been the quest. And it's a beautiful quest. It's like the quest that we all ultimately want as humans, is to define ourselves without the preconceived conditioning that we have and find out who we truly are at the soul level. And I think the queer spaces are an awesome way to do that.
Oh, I'm just so grateful to have each and every one of you on the show. I'm actually going to put all four of you up on, and yeah, you're just all so beautiful. Go ahead, Trish.
I want to share a little bit about the history of Pride. Is that okay for everyone?
Yes, please.
Because what we're all here doing is wanting to be ourselves. Like, I mean, if you're out peripherally listening and you're like, I just don't understand these people. Have you ever felt like someone doesn't want you to be yourself and they want you to rules and values that you just don't resonate with? This is what we're talking about. It's like there is a deep place inside of us that we just want to express what's truly authentic and in integrity to the core of our being. Truly, whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like. So in 1969, there was a gay bar in New York City, and the mob owned it, and they were kind of controlling the scene. And at that time in the country, or in New York, they had rules against people. Like, they had rules that you were supposed to wear your gender clothing. And so when the cops came and raided the situation, it literally blew up into a wild riot. And they rioted through the city, right? And so every year there is I'm giving you a brief section. I'm going to put it in the chat so that you can really look at the history in more detail. But what that was is a, hey, we want to be free. There's nothing wrong. We're not bad and wrong for loving who we want to love or expressing who we want to as we want to express, right? And so as they moved into the riots, coming out of the riots, and every year on June 28th, 1970, thousands of people marched the streets of Manhattan from the Stonewall Inn to Central Park to what is now called the Christopher Street Liberation Day. And so this is the first gay pride parade. And it was since then that we take the entire month to celebrate how far we've come. And there's a lot of places where, as we explore expression, not just relationship expression or gender expression, self-expression, freedom, vocal expression, this is where we're starting to expand our opportunity to love each other authentically, as is, without forcing someone into a box of your values. I see that you have your hand raised. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for the history. And I'll pull up on Wikipedia a little bit about the Stonewall incident. And I love that it was on June 28th, which is, of course, today. So, Emily.
Oh no, I'm really big with my hand gestures. So I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm over here like, yeah, like thumbs up. Like,
oh, okay. Well, I've got the spotlight on you. Because you're a wonderful coach. I happen to get to know what a brilliant coach you are. So for anybody who's watching this show, who is still struggling with how to be more authentic in their gender identification or in their sexual preferences. And when you're working with somebody who's kind of in the early stages of that, maybe even the early stages of identifying, what are some of the tips and tools? What's some initial coaching that you would recommend for people like that?
Well, to create safe spaces to feel that they can start to express their authenticity around their feelings and what's coming up for them as they start to explore their own life force energy and their own arousal and their own experience of life force energy that's moving through them. And feeling that they have a safe place to talk about what's coming up for them, like the shame or the repulsion. There's a lot of like, oh, I'm feeling this part of me coming up and I'm super aroused in this way. And then yet my conditioning is telling me this, that it's not okay. And now like I'm repressing that part. So basically unpacking the diversity of the multitude of aspects that are going on within self, having a safe place where you can have someone to help usher you through that experience. And then ultimately then creating safe community that creates an environment where it's okay to be able to be talking about these parts of ourselves. It's okay to be talking about our arousal to the same sex. It's okay to be talking about, some of our triggers that are coming up as it relates to certain things that we've been told by our parents or by society or by these sort of normative expressions or this conditioning thought was indoctrinated into. So that's the first place, is like to create a safe place of someone that ultimately for me is like being able to also have a coach or a therapist that does identify on the spectrum somewhere. I find that that's important too, because then there's a level of like, you've been through the process and gotten support to usher yourself through that process. And so, almost on a deep level in your own body and your own soul and your heart, how to move through those layers. So then what happens is then that person comes to you and you can take them through that deep transformational death and rebirth process, which it is. Like right now I'm working with someone who is a cis heteronormative male who is now working through the fact that he is polyamorous, gender fluid, queer, bisexual, and also grew up in a very religious context. So he's having a whole experience of like, if I was to really honor myself like in this way, I don't know if I would be accepted by my family. I don't know what that would mean. I don't know, I'm so terrified of then being outcast and judged and like by my family. And I'm so scared that no one's going to love me. I don't know how to actually claim this part of me. And so like, I still need to be in the closet. And so like being okay that he still needs to be in that place and he's still exploring, and like, it's a stage of being able to empower ourselves to feel, one, that we love ourselves and accept ourselves, but two, that we feel safe to start, finding the levels of safety that we have to start coming out and being ourselves and being true to ourselves and coming out to our community, our family, our loved ones. But sometimes that's not possible. And so creating these communities where we do feel a sense of safety that we can start being honest about coming out about these parts of us.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Erica K, I'm going ahead and putting the spotlight on you. Do you have a question or a comment you wanted to share? You have to unmute. You're muted. We need you to unmute. We need you to unmute.
Okay, now can you hear me?
We sure can. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Becky. Anyway, I thought it would be very important for the beautiful young people that are here tonight expressing themselves. Since you brought Stonewall up, I don't know if you know this, Becky. I don't know if Scott knows, but I'm one of the original Stonewall veterans that was arrested that night.
Oh, wow.
I was there celebrating my first birthday as Erica. I transitioned with surgery the year before on June 28th. And so I was there with friends. We were celebrating, having a great time when all of that happened. And I was arrested. I feel your pain. I feel where you're coming from. And I understand that where you're coming from is just as important of where we were coming from in 1969, seeking acceptance. At that time, I was a homeless kid who'd been rejected. So I understand the fear of rejection from family members. But in a week from now, on July 6th, I'm turning 73. And I was 17 when I transitioned. So I've been in this for a long time. I'm the founder of the Foundation for International Justice, where we do human rights activism around the world. We write amicus briefs because I happen to have studied the law in one of my careers in this lifetime. And through the foundation, we created an initiative called Promise Place School for unaccompanied homeless LGBT queer questioning youth that have been rejected by their families. So it's an honor for me to be here with you tonight. And Becky, thank you for the sermon. I haven't heard it yet. I'm going to get to.
Oh,
So
Erica, thank you so much. I did not know that part of your history, and I'm really eager to listen to your story that you shared during World Unity Week. That's how Erica Kay and I met, was through World Unity Week. And this past weekend, I'm an interfaith, interspiritual minister. And what that means to me is that I affirm to bless people in their faith tradition or with the labels that they choose for themselves, that feel good for themselves. And so I was able to do a sermon at my church in Raleigh, North Carolina, to affirm people and also to help each of us expand in our own understanding as what allyship as a verb means. You look it up in the dictionary, it's listed as a noun or a verb. I am a cisgendered, heterosexual female, at least at this point in my life. I see gender and sexuality as a spectrum that for some people can change throughout their life. And so as that, I consider and I do work towards allyship. And I feel at this point in my life, I really want to speak up and help people because there's so much confusion. People want to do the right thing. There are a lot of people who want to be allies and they don't quite know what that looks like. So I wanted to share a little bit about that today. And I'm so grateful that you're here, Erica. It is, wow. I mean, we could just do a whole program about your experience, and what you've done, your life now. My dog is all excited. You can hear him probably in the background. And just thank you for your commitment to being who you are. I've heard you refer to yourself as a two-spirited person, and so I affirm you and I love you. I'm grateful for what you've done to be who you are and what you've done to make space for other people to express themselves and to be who they are. So just thank you so much.
you're very welcome. I was also there for the founding of PFLAG and served as vice president for a while. And So I've had many opportunities,
Mm.
and I know how challenging it can be, especially when you're just coming out and figuring out who you are. But you're beautiful. You're wonderful. You bring such incredible diversity to our planet, Mother Earth. And don't ever stop, and don't ever give up. Because the most perfect love presentation we did, and the foundation that we have in addition to Foundation for International Justice, is A Most Perfect Love. And I'm writing that book from my experience of memories before I was born into this lifetime, and from a near-death experience that I had at 16 years old when I took my own life. But I came back because some wonderful, beautiful angelic guide explained to me about the chain of life, and that each of us are a link in the chain. And there will be people affected in such positive ways that you may never even know. We've had that happen, where a young gay boy was preparing to commit suicide, and he came across my biography on the internet, and it changed his mind. We had the great honor of meeting with his family, who were so grateful that I had just lived. And each of you, no matter how difficult the struggle is, be your authentic selves. Be proud of who you are. That's what pride is all about. We don't have to hide in closets anymore. There are people who will love you and accept you as you are. I'm sitting here with my husband. This is David, who's my best friend, my ally. I hired him as my book editor, never dreaming for 1 minute that when he received the copy of my book to edit, that he would fall in love with this transgender woman who was already 61 years old. And here we are today. And we're doing great work together, and we have teams in Uganda. I met Pussy Riot in Boston when I spoke to 30,000 people there who wanted to meet me. They know in Russia who I am. I had not a clue. Same thing happened in Uganda and everywhere else we've been fortunate to travel to and around the world, and to be able to do so much. So I honor you, and I say namaste. I send you great love, and we accept you.
Thank you so much for being here. And I certainly
Told you I wouldn't miss it, Scott.
and certainly later on in the show, there might be questions that people have for you. And so Erica and David, God bless you, David. God bless you. It's beautiful to have you both with us, and what a wonderful addition to an already lovely show. And just a reminder for everybody, we are going to take questions, and we want to hear from some of you. So some of you are beginning to put comments in chat box, your thoughts, your comments, what pride means to you, questions for our friends here. And I'm going to go back to Reverend Becky to see if there's more you want to say about allyship.
Yes, there was a really incredible article from Harvard Business Review that interviewed 109 LGBTQIA plus identified people to share what it meant to them for people being a good ally. And from 100 written descriptions, they came up with 3 different components that I think each of us can take to our hearts, and even us as LGBTQ plus people, like we can always be greater allies for each other in all of the ways that we express and shine in our own being. And the first component was to be accepted. For example, their allies are people who make other people feel safe and supported. And second is to take action, is to potentially advocate for the group. Right now, we're dealing with many different states that are undoing or passing new laws that are oppressing transgender people's rights, marriage rights, and it's just all over the country. There's a lot of things that are changing for the negative and oppression. And so we can do things to step forward and to make our voice of support heard as we advocate for the group. And additionally, the third component is to have humility, and that we be good listeners, and that we are open to correction, and that we're willing to learn. There's a beautiful person in our community who taught me so much by my simple willingness to ask them a question. I was asked to introduce this beautiful poet that we have in our community to our in a program. And I got their biography, and I said, "What pronouns do you go by?" And they messaged me back and said, "I've never been asked that question before. Thank you. I go by they, them pronouns." And it taught me a valuable lesson. I could have made assumptions in this Zoom room based on what I saw them to be, what I thought they to be, and made an assumption. And then I would have blocked the beauty of this beautiful poet. And I talked with A. Marie B. Thomas Brown about this earlier today with their blessing. And I know how to say I'm sorry. When my assumption kicks in, I'm a human being and I make mistakes. And I am committed to getting this blessed and right for people. If somebody tells me their pronouns, and I'm not sure if they are still in the room, but A. Marie and I have a beautiful friendship, and they respect me and I respect them. And I'm just so grateful to their beautiful heart and the way I've learned just by asking that question. And I know a lot of people find it difficult to even say that, but some people might not know what pronouns are, and that's okay too. We can help people to understand, because this isn't a phase that our world is going through. This is a real thing. These are real people. We are real people. We are really diverse, and we're born into cultural set points that have been oppressive, and we're now breaking those, and we're moving through those, and we want to bless and affirm people and love people and support people, all of us in all of our diversities. We don't need to be denied that. And so I just say love, love, love. And I appreciate so much having this opportunity, Scott, to share some of these stories and to share some more things about allyship. And I'm not sure if A. Marie is here, but if A. Marie is here, it would be wonderful to hear their perspective on what happened a couple of years ago.
We are here, Becky. Hi, Scott.
Hey, hello, Marie. I hear you, but can you turn your camera on?
I'm not in a place where I can. That's why I was kind of listening, because I'm not in a place where I can.
Sorry to
be
put you on
camera.
the spot there. I love you. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to say, A. Marie, just on audio?
Yes, as Becky said, it was the first time we've ever been asked that, and coming to a place where I released labels and saw that we were all, and so I just naturally began referring to me as we, and it was a natural thing for years. And so Becky's the first person who actually asked. Everybody else just assumed, and I went with it, that I'm a she. And so I've never corrected anyone, but having Becky ask that question, and now to hear her refer to us as they, them, it's allowing us to come into, I believe, a oneness with it, because we are of the mind that we are one, and that I can embrace all of us and everything, and not need to be identified as any one thing. And I have a sister, I was hoping she would join tonight, that practices a lesbian lifestyle, that how hard it was for her. And it was no switch for me, because I see souls don't have a sex. and these kinds of things, that the world that we live in, we, me, myself, and I, with Source, there is no gender, not in that regard. And so it was an easy switch for me. And so for me to embrace others this way is a fluid thing. And so I just wanted to give space to that, just to be asked, and that Becky was gracious enough to ask. In all the years that we've referred to ourselves as we, it was the first time, and it's been almost 20 years. And so I am very, very appreciative. And so it's just taking me time now to get it sounds unfamiliar to me to have us to be referred to in this way. And so I'm very appreciative
Wow,
to be
blessings.
asked a question.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's just an example, I think, for our community of what a kindness can look like. And I wasn't aspiring to be an ally. I was just as being me. Like it can be part of who we are to affirm people in their identity, and just to be a blessing and honor people, and not make assumptions. And especially, we're in Zoom. A lot of us spend a lot of time in Zoom. And I love that Zoom now, you can change your pronouns. You can list your pronouns as you choose to. You can put it in your profile setting. And so I have that listed, and I even have my Pride frame going right now. We can change that. We don't have to just use it in June. We can use it year round to affirm. And thank you so much, Scott. Thanks for doing this very special program. And thank you to all our allies, all the allies in our community. We're all rising together here. As we affirm another person, we affirm ourselves, no matter what our diversity. And as we deny someone, we deny ourselves. So let's just hold that space for affirming what people believe. Let's support each other in that.
Beautiful, thank you. And we'll hear more from Becky and Emily and Katerina and Trish. We're about halfway through the show, and I realized that I forgot to let people know how to join the Global Peace Tribe, because most of you who are watching on those Facebook groups and pages, or on YouTube, or on Conscious Awakening Network. And we welcome all of you on all of our different broadcast partners. And we also want to invite you to come and join the Global Peace Tribe. It's really easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com, and you can learn all about all the different things we do. Send a little email there, or give us your name and email address, and you'll get a free book. And it's a great book all about activating your soul tribe. And come and join us. And all you got to do is click register for the new season. And this is great timing, because our new season technically begins this weekend on Saturday, January 1st. So you'll get all the Zoom room links to all of our shows for the next 3 months, all the way through September 30th. We do 3 or more shows every week with all these wonderful hosts and guests talking about all sorts of different topics. So for example, last week, on Wednesday, we had a concert, a Kristen Hoffman concert. And then we were celebrating World Unity Week with the Awakening World. Has been collaborating all 4 years with World Unity Week. That's how I met our wonderful Reverend Becky, who's with us, was through World Unity Week. And I see a lot of people who are from World Unity Week with us. And then on Sunday, we had a very special show, and we do this periodically, where we bring in energy healers who did amazing healing work with some of our Zoom roomers. So come and join the Global Peace Tribe. There's still plenty of time. We're only about halfway through tonight's show. And when you register, you'll immediately get the links to all of our shows, including tonight. So please do join the Global Peace Tribe. And we also always have a lot of music and videos to kind of integrate. We bring in interesting, fascinating people. We hear from them, and then we dance and we move. And I'm going to play a video right now from one of my absolute favorite presenters. She's been on this show many, many times, and her name is Nina Gray. And I actually play this frequently because it's just a very, very beautiful video. It's called Love is Love. And of course, you'll in a moment see why it's so perfect for tonight. And a big special shout out to Nina Gray, one of our absolute favorite presenters on this show. So here we go with Love is Love by Nina Gray.
Is there a right way? Or can we get it wrong? When we love someone, when we're loving someone, if it were up to Jesus, think he'd open up his arms to really love someone, to really love everyone. Love is what they say. Ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors and different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Love is what they say. Ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors and different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Oh, oh, oh. She spent a long time thinking there was something wrong, journaling at midnight, feeling so alone. He spent a lifetime playing out a role, denying attraction to the man he loved the most. Love is what they say. Ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors and different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Love is what they say. Ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors and different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Oh, love is 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 love.
I love that video so much. It's just so beautiful. Hey, I'm going to bring Katerina back up. And Katerina, it's so good to have you with us. Thank you very, very much. And you, in the many things that you do, I see that you do transgender coaching. And so tell us about that. Tell us a little bit more about your journey and a little bit about how you coach people. Again, maybe people that are even in the very first stages of even wondering what that means. And gosh, I kind of have always felt like I'm a different gender than what I was born with. What are some of the first steps and what are the ways that you support people like that?
A lot of it to me is helping people navigate their gender expression without necessarily knowing where it's leading, because it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting, like me, to transition from one gender to another, and then finding later that there was more. It was more nuanced than that. It wasn't so much that I wasn't, say, masculine. I just also am feminine, and I feel like the existing structures that I had when I was out looking for coaches for my own transition were typically more along the lines of moving from one box to another. And what I do is help people find what freedom looks like to them, as opposed to being trans or being queer, or being really in even identifying with one flag or one set of labels. It's more just that's allowing oneself to just simply kind of experiment and play and see life as kind of just like this land journey that we go on each day, and we get to try on new characters. It's quite fascinating, to be honest, because it's like each day waking up and getting to be a completely new person who isn't based on the person who was yesterday. It's this huge elationary process of just getting to go out and play without having to define it. And so that's really what I offer people, is a safe place and a safe kind of like a mindset to offer that without having to judge it. I mean, if someone had told me where I'd be 5 years from now, 5 years ago, I would have punched them in the face and run the other direction. I mean, it would not have been my choice necessarily back then, with the mindset I had, to become this kind of very queer, very pan, very poly, very sex positive, really open, loving person. It's just super spiritual, but I'm happy. It's like, that is the freedom that I want people to have, is that feeling of just like, God, life can be so beautiful. And why not? I mean, just that feeling of just, it may be that people don't need to manifest anything externally. I think for myself, I focused a lot on the externalities of my transition. And a lot of what I help people work through is, maybe their life situation doesn't allow them to fully come out visibly to everybody, but that doesn't prevent them from feeling the way that they are inside as to be their authentic self. That feeling of having, like, for me, the masculine and feminine move within me. It's like some kind of metal that moves like liquid in me, and I can just feel it flowing. And it's like I can meet any circumstance in life with the life force moving inside me at this moment. And if that turns out to be a masculine energy, that's great. I don't need to judge it. I just get to embody the energy that wants to emerge as life is going on. So that transition to freedom, is how I think of it.
Beautiful. I'm going to bring up Emily and Trish, and I've got a question that any of you could answer, and that is, how do you manage really embracing your freedom, embracing your truth, and family members or close friends that you love who are freaked out or in judgment, or really, thinking that there's something wrong with you? We've got a couple people asking about that. How do you manage even well-intentioned friends and family makers? Trish.
I always connect from empathy. So I ask them, well, tell me about what it is for you that's freaking you out. Something you taught me, Scott, is to lead with curiosity and to lead with empathy and compassion. And it's like, and oftentimes my expression causes them to fear about my life and my future, is one way. And then the other way is that it asks them, it doesn't ask them, it kind of forces them to look at their own identity and the places that they haven't really reconciled, where they've loved themselves. This is my experience, right? Of the people in my family. And in some ways they don't, like, a lot of my family don't quite understand who I am or why I'm the way that I am. And you know what? I resonate with people here in California, and then there's like people who reach out to me, and guess what? They're my family. And those people I know that I can call on when I'm like, nobody wants to talk to me when I put my mustache on, and I want to be talked to, and I want to embrace those things, or I want to be, or I get to have a more diverse experience in the world that's not just limited to the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant Montana viewpoint that thinks that love is control. And so I always come from curiosity and from understanding what they're afraid of, or what they need. Like, what is it that it touches inside of you? And how can I work with you? And do you know what oftentimes it comes to? I mean, and maybe this is for other people as well, but oftentimes the same need or value of safety or of freedom or of expression or connection is the same as my strategy.
Mm,
Their strategy to keep safe is just a different strategy for me to keep safe. I want to be free.
beautiful. I love how the topic of freedom is coming up so much. Katerina or Emily, is there anything either of you would like to add to what Trish just said about managing friends and family that are struggling with your choices?
For myself, it's simply been, I can only come in with love, and I've kind of adopted a no holds barred. I'm just going to be myself. I'm respectful of others, but I'm not changing who I am in order to fit someone else's paradigm. And I have lost some, not necessarily lost, but maybe the connections feel a little different, you know, in a few instances. And I can't imagine going back on myself in order to regain that. You know, it's unfortunate. And it shows us just how much we need a world with greater acceptance. We shouldn't have to lose those we love in order to be ourselves. That's not an acceptable choice for a human to have to make.
Thank you, Katerina. Emily?
Yeah, I'm really, really feeling that. I'm noticing some tears come up for me. And I think where it comes down to it is really cultivating the community of people that are more open and curious and empathic and embrace all, perspectives, walks of life, and they want to lean in and learn and grow, and having these communities and safe places where we can learn and grow from one another and feel safe to be in our authentic expression. And this has been really challenging for me on a personal level because my father is very Republican conservative and also very religious. Not to say that there are not people that are that maybe are, also open-minded. And right now my brother's son is going from he to her, 16, and my dad is very judgmental around the whole trans topic. And so my brother's gone into hiding around his family, where it's not been safe to even have our families get together. And so I'm at this crisis point with my brother where I'm getting together and being like, all right, like, how am I going to come in and also be somewhat of like a mediated voice holding space, as my brother is absolutely terrified to share about his son going from he to her, and how he's scared that he's going to be judged as a failure as a father. And I'm in that space with my family right now. And I came out to my father like maybe 6-7 years ago and got a lot of judgment of being like, why are you so full of yourself? All you care about is these kinds of things you keep to yourself. You don't need to come out and share these things. Like, why do you have to make this a big deal? And kind of like all these, again, judgments. And it's like really that whole thing of like still not doing the old thing of like then feeling that I have to hide myself in order to get my father's approval. But also seeing this part too of how, because of his judgment, that we've had to distance ourselves and how it has like separated our family. And so we're now at this crisis point again, where it's like, I'm working with my brother. My brother's also bi, kinky, and poly. And so that's been a whole thing of him coming out and embracing himself. I am as well. And so now we're doing this whole thing of now accepting his family and then bringing the family back into a greater level of like, how do we come together and be like, my dad might go into some serious judgment and shaming and be like, not attacking back, not shutting ourselves down, but being in this exquisite dance of like, this is who we are. And we hear that you have some differences of opinions and some different ways that work for you. And yet, like, we also want to be embraced and accepted. And how can we like honor our differences and still choose love here? So I'm just saying that like, it's like a process too, right? Of how these kinds of things, like as we're, working within our family dynamics, of how we also like that balance of like, the ways that we might need to have greater boundaries with our family, but what are the ways that we also shut ourselves down and disconnect from our families. And where's that balance, right? Like, how can we learn the skills and tools to go back into the fire and really try to unite and create like family? But where is that not possible? And then we need to create family elsewhere. It's really, I don't have it all figured out. I don't. And it's hard and challenging. And part of me is sharing this with you because I'm in this right now with my family. And it's challenging and hard. And like, I'm saying this because like we need to be public and also have expression like this so that we can also not feel so alone. You know, there might be somebody else on this call saying, oh my God, I'm going through this kind of experience right now, or like, and so normalizing that also it's a process, right? Of like the ways these things come up in our family for many of us, and how do we work with these dynamics of these differences of this judgment?
Thank you, Emily, and God's blessings. I know your family, and I have a lot of love for your family, so I'm feeling it. I'm bringing everybody else up, including Erica, because I want to ask a question about kind of a difficult part of all of this, which is politics versus compassion, in a sense. In other words, we heard just now, when dealing with our family members, it's very important to lead with love, lead with compassion. And it also appears that there is a whole new round of polarization and a lot of hate crimes are increasing. And so certainly, Erica, as someone who's been in this world the longest, I'd love to hear what you've learned and your thoughts about putting our attention towards activism, or is it better to just go local? What have you learned and observed? And then I'd love to hear Becky and Katerina and Trish and Emily, anything you want to share also about, gosh, do I become an activist and really get out there politically, or do I keep it more to a lower, an easier love vibe with the people I have impact with? And of course, there's no right or wrong, but just kind of your thoughts about that. So Eric, I'd love to start with you if you'd be willing to share a little bit of your wisdom about it all.
Absolutely. I've been on both sides of that, where I was very politically involved. For some of you that don't know, my marriage, not to David, of course, was invalidated as a same-sex marriage, and I spent 4 years in prison in Georgia. And that's when I studied the law, and I challenged it in the courts. So I was kind of forced at that point into a role of being an activist and fighting. I'm not talking about the physical fight. I'm talking about the emotional fight. I'm talking about the courts, the legal system. But years down the road, I suddenly was moving in all the political circles. When Stonewall was made a National Historic Site, we were invited to the White House by President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. And my husband was born and raised in Hyannis, Massachusetts, and his father was a doctor and happened to become the physician to Jacqueline Kennedy during that time. And so we know politicians all through the government, Republicans and Democrats. We spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. advocating on a state level in Massachusetts and other states. Most of our time has been spent traveling and speaking with young people. And then I was asked to become the international media spokesperson for the LGBT community in 2013, which brought a tremendous amount of exposure in politicians and politics and all of that. Today, I've changed. and gone into a peace movement, I have no fighting whatsoever in my life. And I understand the pain of the family and the transition and how much patience we need to have and compassion for our family members, because it wasn't easy to understand. In fact, when I transitioned, the word transgender was not even existing.
Mm.
It was drag queen or sex change.
Mm.
So times have evolved and times have changed. And there's been tremendous healing in my family. Before my father passed away, our bond healed. And my family has come to respect the human being that I am and the person that I am. And I also have a brother who's gay. We have transgender nieces and nephews, and gay, straight, pan, poly, all throughout the family. And we've learned to have tolerance for each other. So what I advise on activism, I'm going to advise you to follow your own hearts and your own minds and what feels as the right thing for you.
Mm.
I'm not going to say I'm on my way out yet, but let's put it this way. At 73 years old, and may I give a shout out, Scott, to two dear friends that were also at Stonewall who are no longer with us, but we honor them every year at this time. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. When we didn't have money to get in the Stonewall Inn for the cover charge, we used to ride the bus and party together and spend time together. So I knew them. We all knew each other. And they were great leaders. Marsha was not a fighter, but Sylvia sure was. Marsha was the gentle and the loving. So I've seen both sides of that. I just choose to move into a different path now after many years of studying world religions. And when I'm asked today, what is my religion? I say it's the one that does not divide.
Mm. Beautiful.
The one that brings us together. And I found that, and I found acceptance throughout the world. I'm out publicly. Sometimes I would have said to you, it would have been much easier if I had just stayed in the closet, but no, because I couldn't be who I really am. I couldn't be my authentic self. And being my authentic self has helped pave the way for the freedoms. And yes, we have those in office who are trying to do away with care for our transgender youth and all of that. But you know, we've been very busy in the background. And we now have federal judges just in the last month or so who are overturning the bans on transgender youth care.
Good.
We have many friends who are from all backgrounds, all colors, all shapes, sizes, just beautiful, beautiful beings who contribute so much to planet Earth and to each of us. So I'm grateful for that. Am I going to run for politics? No, thank you. I considered it, but no.
Well, I'm so grateful you're on our show tonight. And, you know, the majority of the people who watch the replays, I'm going to really promote it. It's turning out to be one of my favorite shows and so important. So thank you again, Eric. And it just breaks my heart. 4 years in prison for marrying the person that you love.
I won, by the way, in the Supreme Court, but it took every day of those 4 years.
Wow.
As my own lawyer.
You know,
I just want to share this because I was a homeless kid. I had never finished my education. And all of a sudden, because I was born in California, I grew up there, but I also lived in New York as a homeless kid.
Wow.
And I was in my early 20s, and two guys I met invited me to come to work for them. and in public relations for a company called Thousand Trails. And I worked in Ottawa, California at a sales resort there for them. 2 months later, the assistant sales manager at a meeting one night asked me, how would you like to be in a position in your life where you'd never have to be dependent on another man? Well, that was pretty nice invitation, because I was making a little over $200 a week and they were making over $2,000, $3,000 a week. So I was promoted into sales. I was a quiet, shy kid, scared of my own shadow. But that training and that job brought me out of the shell to be able to speak publicly and to do the work that's now being done. Chairman of the board came to me, I don't know, about 9 years later, 10 years later, and he started grooming me into a spiritual life and sending me books to read, and worked closely with me and started me on the spiritual path I'm on now. His name is James Jensen. And I also want to add, I'm very proud of my male energies, because my male energies have given me the courage to fight when I had to fight. My male energies gave me the courage to become extremely successful in a career. It was a sales career and then sales management and upper management. And I was blessed with an incredible income that is enabling us to have the life that we have now, and to have the foundations and to do the work that we do. But I'm also very proud of the feminine side of myself. I used to be young once myself, and attractive, and to enjoy the feminine side of myself. And I've learned through the years to be able to balance both energies so that we're in perfect harmony every day.
Beautiful. And I know that both you and Katerina use the term true spirit. And,
Yeah.
and it's really beautiful having both of you here, as two examples of that you embrace your masculine and your feminine, and you're both beautiful, inside and out, clearly. And so that's really, really quite a lovely thing. Erica, thank you so much for the life you've led, and blessings to those people that you mentioned just now that lit the way. It's really something. And Katerina, I'm curious, what is it like for you meeting Erica in this way? What, this kind of a spontaneous, what is this like for you to look into the reflection of Erica in her life?
It's interesting, especially in that I had earlier said that on this path, it can be very lonely, in the sense that we don't necessarily have models that we can follow, because it's a journey of self-discovery. But then to meet someone when I meet someone whose discoveries are so similar to mine, and they describe them as though I'm listening to myself talk, it's really serendipitous and really cool. It's really fun. And very inspirational, because the life that Emily has led is much like what I see my dharma or my path to be more of a spokesperson, and to be putting myself out there. And I recently was at a retreat, and in the void, I was doing a meditation, and I asked my soul, what can I do for you? And it just said, put me in front of people, as many as you can, and show up and be of service. And so having someone here who has done that bravely and graciously and successfully, as someone to hold as inspiration and proof that it can be done, is beautiful. Thank you.
And thank you. Just one quick word there. I hope that you guys jump in feet first into 99 Days of Peace through Unity and represent with us who are from the LGBTQ community, because right now there aren't many of us. And I would love to see that grow. So that's an invitation. I don't know how Scott found you, but I'm sure glad he did this show.
There is just a beautiful force that brings these shows together in most magical ways. Trish, I want to give you a moment because I know I'm imagining that you're having some strong emotions and feelings about what's taking place tonight.
My heart just feels like it's breaking open. And your family members. Yeah. You know, just just some weird Montana kid wanting to be whoever they are, meeting people who are being themselves. And it's like, it's kind of like, do you want to be my friend? You know, it just feels really good. You know what I mean? It feels really good to feel so heart connected and to see really brave and courageous people doing what's in their heart. And what I mean by courage is that they know, like, we know that when we put ourselves out there, the danger that comes with that. Like, and that's the thing, right? Is that bravery, you're just kind of oblivious, like, oh yeah, it might be dangerous. But courage, you're stepping in and you're choosing. So it feels really up because it just feels really real to express. You know, I don't want to be forced into the gender role of female because it doesn't feel right. And I don't want to be specifically forced into the masculine role because it doesn't feel right. I just sometimes I look in the mirror, Scott, and I'm like, holy crap. Oh yeah, you look like that. Like, I don't see myself that way. But I'm far too lazy to do anything else about it other than let it grow and like wear things that feel right today. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it just feels right.
Mm.
And I'm so honored to hear your stories and that you're courageous and that you're here and that you're choosing to be here. Like, it's like all of you, like each and every one of you, even the people asking chat, trying to understand, trying to find connection. Like, this is family. I also really want to know what it's like to grow a beard. Like, I don't know what that feels like.
It feels good. It's like, yeah, I like my beard. But you got to snip it, and you know, Emily was the best. Like, my favorite part of our relationship was when she would trim my beard for me. I miss Emily. I really do. Becky, I'd love for you to share, since they brought up about 99 Days of Unity. I'm gonna put the spotlight on you. I'm gonna pin you, actually. Tell us about 99 Days of Unity and what that's all about, because it's starting right now.
Yes, so what we are doing, some of you may know about World Unity Week that just happened, and that launched our 99 Days of Peace through Unity that will take us through Peace Weekend that goes past the International Day of Peace in September through, I think it's the 23rd of September. And so we're inviting people to hold a mission. And right now we are, as to my knowledge, we're missing a mission around LGBTQIA plus matters, you know, and it would be really incredible if those on the call here who are the guests want to collaborate and presence and come up with a mission together that we could support each other as people who are members of the LGBTQ community and allies, that we could increase visibility for this work, and what we're doing, and what allyship looks like. And I do have to say, all of these questions in the chat, it's so wonderful that you all are risking yourself to ask these questions and don't feel like, is this a silly question or anything? It's really hard, and we are all learning. I'm learning, we're all learning how to do that. And so if you go to worldunityweek.org/participate, you can express a mission there. And maybe we could, have another meeting, a smaller group of us, to come up with what that mission could be. And then over these days, we could share, additional programs, or, maybe there's some way that we can have a spotlight or something. And then on Peace Week, during Peace Week, then people can reflect on what happened over the 99 days. So it's something to consider. We have a mighty network, and there's hundreds of us there who are aspiring peace builders, many of us. And so it's a beautiful community, and really diverse. It's global. And so that's a little bit more about that, Scott. And just for everybody who is in the room or out there watching these beautiful, this program on the live streams on many Facebook pages, I wanted to share a couple of resources, because I think, as I continue to learn about my own gender identity, and where maybe there were things that were typecast in me, I've tried very hard not to do that to my own children. I have 2 young adult daughters and a younger son. And I've tried very hard not to buy into what gender norms should be, as I've mothered them, and as they've been my greatest teachers, really. And so I wanted to share and invite each of us to consider our own journey with our gender. There's a wonderful website called genderspectrum.org. And if you go there, you can say who you are and what you're interested in. There's a place where you can actually write about your own journey with your understanding of gender for yourself. And no matter how you feel, we've all had a relationship with our gender, whether it was something that was put upon us, or whether it was something that we have grown into in a different understanding of what was put upon us. And so I have this wonderful teacher from my school named Reverend Deb Berman, and I hope towards the end of the program I'd be able to share a closing affirmation that she wrote. But she says that these gender reveal parties that we do for babies are really just identifying the child's sex parts. It's one piece of information. It's not gender is something that becomes as a child gets older. It's, we're doing a disservice when we do this, and we put such an emphasis on there, unless we have an awareness of this is one tiny little piece of information that may not shape that, it'll affect the child, but it may not be their gender identity. And so we just have to be in a position to ask ourselves, what does love look like as we're moving through all of these questions within ourselves? And I hope that genderspectrum.org website would be a useful place for you. And we've used a lot of different terms and definitions. And for those of you that these are new things, you can go to GLAAD. It's GLAAD.org. They are a media reference guide that has several different reference glossaries. And I say that with a grain of salt, because the language is changing. The language is always becoming. Somebody might identify one way and you read a description and it doesn't add up. So just be open, trust the person that you're talking with about their own experience, and support them in who they experience themselves to be. And thank you so much, Scott, for sharing some of those screens. And I hope those resources are going to be helpful to people.
Absolutely. And we put them all into the links into the chat box. Again, for those of you watching on Facebook, join the Global Peace Tribe, because when you're in the Zoom room, you get the links and it's just much easier. And there's a lot of chat that goes on, and we want to hear from you. We want to interact with you. And guess what, Becky? On this Sunday, on the Sacred Sunday show, we're going to dedicate the majority of the show to creating our missions. Some of our Global Peace Tribers have already started to create missions. Global Peace Tribe itself has a mission, which is to triple our audience. And so this Sunday, John Raymer is going to be one of our primary guests, or really our primary guest, to kind of go through the missions with us and all that. So we really are very much about promoting this 99 days of unity and really encouraging everybody. If you're listening right now, we want you to pick a mission for yourself. It can be writing a book, it can be personal, it can be planting a garden, it can be anything that is something you want to do that realistically you can accomplish in 3 months, and then dedicate this season that just began to that mission. And we're going to support you. We're going to all support each other. So that's a big part of what's happening. And we'll close tonight's show with your blessing and, of course, a final Mushar song. Let's talk about coaching. Kind of wrapping up a little bit. So I'm going to go to Emily and then to Katerina, because I'm imagining there might be people watching who might be looking for coaching and support. Emily, tell us about your offerings and what you're up to.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Well, first off, I wanted to say to Erica, thank you so much. It is such a privilege to be here in the arms of an elder, in the arms of someone that has been walking the path for so many years, in coming out when you did. And it was just like, I can only imagine how much courage, how much strength, how much perseverance, how much challenge, and like how you have paved the way for us to be able to come out. And also just the revolution of how now it's becoming much more easier to come out. But thank you so much. I don't even have words right now. I just want you to know how grateful and honored it is to be on this call with you. Like, it's moving me to tears. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank
And
you.
it's my pleasure and honor to meet you and see the work that you're doing, and to see our younger generation coming up. I'm truly grateful that you don't have to be beaten by the police anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really feeling into a deep empathy for like what you went through and how you still had the courage to keep. Thank you. Just thank you so much.
Well, I know where my strength comes from. And my strength comes from doing everything from a place of love.
I feel that.
And letting that be my center post, my guide. And I hope you don't mind, Becky, if I invite them. If you choose to participate, we have a most perfect love. One of the participants. I'd be honored, unless you have your own particular set of missions you'd like to accomplish, but to join with us in supporting ours as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you. So yeah, just a little bit about me and my coaching services. You can go to theheartninja.com. I am open for taking on private clients. My specialties are specifically helping people to empower them into their authentic truth, to help them be able to feel proud of who they are, to create deep love, passionate sex, and create aligned win-win relationships. I'm also pro-poly, ethically non-monogamous, and also kinky. So helping people to really embrace the full spectrumality of how they identify, how they want to run their energy, and help them to feel empowered in their sexuality, and to also have the tools and skills to be able to create consensual win-win relationships that work for them. So if any of that sounds like that would be useful or inspiring, or you know anybody that might need some support to be able to grow in those different aspects in themselves, you can dance on over to my website. I'm also the Heart Ninja on Instagram and also Facebook. Thank you, Scott.
Definitely follow Emily. She has great posts. They're fun, they're funny, they're playful. Sometimes they're very poignant. Sometimes they're very silly. Sometimes they're sexy. You never know what you're going to get, but it's always I always enjoy. What's Emily up to today? Okay, which Emily are we going to see today? And so definitely follow her on Facebook and on Instagram. And thank you, Emily, for being with us tonight. I'm really glad you were here. Thank you. Kind of similar question for you. We're going to go to Katerina. Katerina, tell us a little bit more about your coaching, and I'll put your links in, but let us know like your demographic group that you enjoy working with, and anybody who might be interested in coaching with you.
Okay. Yeah, and I would like to say thank you to Erica and her husband too. I think that was something I was going to mention, is just how the people who surround us with love and openly accept us. And that to me this is something I really work with people that I coach, is I think a fundamental human belief that's common to a lot of us is that fear that if we actually show ourselves completely, fully, naked, vulnerably, and we show the world who we truly are, that people will run the other direction. And that's like the beauty of this life, is being able to show up fully and meet people who will love us and accept us. So I work with, in terms of coaching, I have gender integration coaching, which can look anything like a full transition externally and moving from one gender box to another, or finding more of a non-binary two-spirit approach, and also just working with people who don't necessarily require an outward manifestation to their gender expression, the change in that, but wanting to feel more internally free. And then I coach people on some relationship issues. I'm polyamorous and ethically non-monogamous, so I do some of that type of coaching, as well as personal transformation. I've found that the process of coming out and taking aspects of self and then saying, oh, I like this, I don't like that, is really the foundation of all personal transformation. It's sort of the same kind of phoenix and rise again process that we go through as humans, as we evolve and grow and change into the beings that we are. And then I also do somatic touch-based therapy. I live in North San Diego in Carlsbad, and I sometimes travel, so I'm available for video sessions that way. And I do a lot of hands-on healing sessions, tantric energy healing. And so I love that work. And I can be found at katerinaphoenix.com, which is the same as thesacredqueer.com. And thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight.
Here is her website, katerinaphoenix.com, mentoring and coaching, and she does it both virtually and in person. Carlsbad is just north of San Diego. I have a lot of friends and clients down there, as a matter of fact. And I see that you also do Reiki healing sessions. So go to katerinaphoenix.com, katerinaphoenix.com, and you can learn more about what she offers, and definitely subscribe, I just did, to receive more content from her. And clearly you are going to be a great and important spokesperson, Katerina, for this field. I want to acknowledge that. While Emily was talking, I didn't get a chance to show her website. So I'm going to do that right now for a moment. And Emily's website is theheartninja.com. Theheartninja.com. It's a great website. And again, just like I did with Katerina, where I registered, do the same. Give your name and information so that Emily you can follow her and she can get back to you. And she offers a lot of really wonderful things. Here you see the many different looks of Emily Oram and all the different things that she provides. So thank you again, Emily. And I'm going to bring Emily back up for a moment. A question for both of you. You both mentioned the words ethical non-monogamy. And people are wondering, what is ethical non-monogamy? What does that mean?
Want to go first?
Sure. Okay, let me see. I'm going to start my video. Okay, sorry. I was married for 22 years in a very traditional heteronormative monogamous marriage. And when I transitioned, it began the shift of that marriage to no longer exist. And the first person I met actually was a tantrika named Kamala Devi. We met on Tinder and started a relationship that way. And the very first thing they told me, one of the first things they said on our first date was, if you're monogamous, this isn't going to work. And I thought, well, dating has changed a lot in like 20 something years, you know? And at first, you know, it's taken me, that's been a hard one to come out as, because I had a lot of judgment around it for myself, you know, like, how can I be this way and feel good about it? But it's like, I consider myself polyamorous, and I focus on the love aspect. So to me, I want to be able to love more than one person. And I've had a lot of affairs of the heart and a lot of affairs of the mind, or just speaking. So, you know, I mean, I've people that I just love speaking with, and it doesn't always manifest sexually. And even in my poly relationships, it's not really about the sex. It's about being able to connect authentically and fully and deeply with people in more than kind of a hamstrung way, which is sometimes how I felt when I was in a monogamous marriage, where if there was, say, a woman that I wanted to become friends with, it could evoke jealousy. And it's allowed me to navigate in a way with people that feels really alive and vibrant and has a lot of integrity, because it, again, is kind of like being queer, in that there isn't necessarily a prescribed rule book for how relationships like that look. And so it's a create your own relationship as you go dynamic. And to me, it's got to be based on ethics and principles, and a lot of integrity and a ton of transparency. And those are all key factors that typically were missing or would go missing over time in the previous monogamous relationships I'd had, simply because they kind of followed a prescribed way of being, instead of continually having to bring into question the integrity of what I'm doing, because it's a co-created thing. So I love that relationship style, in that it just buys a lot of freedom and a lot of personal power.
Thank you so much, Katerina. Thank you so much for sharing that. Emily, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're curious, and maybe some of you are on the open spectrum, me and my previous partner created a quiz at www.openlovestyle.com, where you can answer a series of questions that gives you a chart that shows a little bit about where you might be on a series of spectrums. And so, like Katerina was saying, there's like the monogamous and polyamorous spectrum, which is kind of your romantic spectrum of how you want to run your energy. Then there's the monosexual, just being with one person sexually, to polysexual, and that's a spectrum. So how you run your sexual energy. And then we have some other spectrums that we had on our that you can answer a series of questions if you are kind of like curious and you might be not identifying specifically as monogamous. But a little bit for me is, I have always been more open and loving. And even when I got into my marriage at 26 to 32, I had already been doing a lot of body work and even sex work, where I would touch bodies and evoke arousal. And so when I married my partner, he already knew that about me. So there was sort of this kind of, but I didn't have all this terminology. And so I was already like running my energy very in an alternative way. But there was this series of like, oh, now that I'm married, there's kind of a certain level of openness, but there's still, now I have to behave this way. I have to adhere to this series of boxes now that I'm in this marriage. And what I just found is that I kept finding that there would be constriction of how I wanted to actually share my love, and how I wanted to also touch and share my sexual energy with multiple people. And that somehow, because of that, there was something wrong with me. And so what happened is I would hide myself and end up lying, hiding, cheating, doing all these kinds of things, because I felt that there was this certain set of like side of me. And so once I did the work to let go of that, and then come out and realize, oh, wow, I'm not the only one. There's like other people that are like doing this. There's and there's all these like terms, and there's all these like different ways of being able to relate, then it was like, oh, I can accept myself. And then how do I now do it in a way where I'm no longer hiding, I'm no longer lying, I'm no longer cheating. I'm actually being like, hey, this is what's important to me. This is how I run my energy. This is who I am. Does this work for you? Right? Like, does this, like, how do you run your energy? Does this, and being able to have those hard conversations, right? That like asks us to like then look at the confrontation of like, hey, are we configured properly? Are we aligned in how we want to run our energy? Or where is the alignment and where are the boundaries of how close we get or how much we connect? And that's the conversation that, you know, I help people in my coaching practice. I help them to learn to figure out how they want to run their energy and embrace that, and then have the challenging conversations and have the tools to have the conversations to configure properly in their relationships.
Beautiful. Emily, thank you so much. And again, you can find her at theheartninja.com. She is the Heart Ninja. And there is another amazing coach who's here every Wednesday night, and that would be Trish. Trish, you want to share a little bit about your coaching? And I know you got something pretty cool that you're up to in August.
Well, that has actually changed because Dave doxed me on Instagram, so I have nowhere to advertise.
Oh no. Oh.
I am a certified sex and relationship coach, and I use the word sex.
And Instagram tossed you just for using the word sex?
Well, I think someone is upset with me and wants to continue to like tell me that my expression of life is not okay. Because I am also a kinky sex coach, and I primarily work with deconstructing codependency and the patriarchal white supremacy model of relating. So most of the work that I'm doing now, actually, most of my clients are in a program that I called Man of Dignity. So I'm working with, honestly, like if you want to hear about it, most of my clients are people socialized as male, born into penis having bodies, and they are deconstructing their gender and their social programming so that they can become more loving humans who live in integrity. That is what I've been doing. And can I just share this one experience that I think is wildly powerful. I'm walking one of my clients through some of his own authentic expression. So living in integrity is that your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, and your actions are all moving in the same direction. Like you are in alignment with who you are. And he hasn't been. And in a in-person session the other day, I watched this man speak to his body and come to a conversation of, I just want to trust you. And it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. To be really honest, he was just, I just want to trust you again. And now he's recognizing where he's been out of integrity in his relationships, how he's caused himself harm and how he's caused other people harm because he didn't know any different. And it is a blessing and an honor. And I deeply respect these men that want to show up and have someone who's holding them in this expression and to be more loving men. And it has been one of the most powerful things. So you're welcome to check out my website. It's trishwrightloves.com, and you can see all the wild expressions of classes that I'm teaching, whether it's through BDSM, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through the group work, the self-secure work, the program that's coming up in September and October. Yeah, that is it.
TrishWrightLoves.com. TrishWrightLoves.com. And Trish, you do love, and you love well. All right, we are winding down. We're going to hear one last time from Becky and from Omashar. And I just need you two to let me know what order. So one of you text me with what order you want to go in. And while you're doing that, I want to remind everybody, this is it. This is the last show of the spring 2023 season. We are now moving into the summer season, summer for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. So if you have already registered for the Awakening World, thank you. It's great to have you with us. And if you haven't registered for the Awakening World, please make sure you do so that you get the Zoom room links for our show starting on Saturday night. And this Saturday night show, like pretty much all of our shows, is going to be a good one. It's going to be all about manifesting. Here we are coming into a new season, summer for most of us, winter for some. And it's another collaboration with Tangela. And she's brought on several of her soul search experts. And we're going to really talk about tips and tools and practices for manifesting at a really high level. And Omashar will be with us playing music. And then we also have another fellow, I don't know his music. He came to us through Tangela, named Presence, who's going to create some music for us as well. So it's going to be on Saturday night. And then on Sunday, Omashar and I are going to lead a community conversation. And we are going to focus on really supporting some of you to create your mission. What do you want to accomplish? How can the Global Peace Tribe support you? That's going to be our show on Sunday. So join us for the Sacred Sunday show. All right. It's wonderful. God, I just loved this show. This is one of those shows that I want everybody on the planet to see it. And we are going to go to Becky for a closing experience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. Thank you, everyone, for your beautiful hearts and your shares. And I just want to share this, not as a self promotion, but to let people across this beautiful community know there are very few ministers available to this extraordinary community. And I do sacred Zoom services as well as in-person services, including renaming ceremonies, self-wedding ceremonies. I'm available to support people in the diversity of their way they experience love and express love. And so if I ever can be of support to anyone here, or if you know of a family that really wants to support or needs help supporting their youth, I'm available to help build bridges for love. And so I really appreciate being able to share that. I'm Becky@joyfuel.org, and I haven't had a chance, been a little busy with all these World Unity Weeks to actually change my website for that information, but it's Becky@joyfuel.org.
Here's the website. I just want to
Thank you. Yes, it's got a lot of dust on it, but a lot of love has been growing over this past year since I became a interfaith minister. So I appreciate you sharing it. So what I'd like to do is, for those, some of us lit a candle in the beginning, and so I'm going to share this beautiful offering from one of my teachers, Rev Deb Berman, who is the founder of Pride Ministry. And this is a blessing for the non-conforming spirit. And after I finish this, I'll blow out the candle, and then Om Shah will bless us with his beautiful music. Divine Creatrix, great non-binary mystery, you who are all feminine, all masculine, all gendered and no gendered, you who are fluid, ever shifting state of the universe, divine consciousness in all of your infinite faces and facets. We are your children made in your boundless image. Those of us who are sex, sexuality, sexual practices, gender or relationship non-conforming, we live in the spaces between spaces, in the time between times. We seek each other in the dark, not because we are ashamed, but it is in the dark where everything is illuminated. It is where the divine sees all and we see the divine. We find each other's shadow selves utterly irresistible. It is in the dark where we touch each other's souls, where sensuality and sexuality and humanity and divinity intertwine in sacred love. For love is boundless. And for some of us who dwell in that space between spaces, in that time between times, we know that we cannot contain our love to a narrow human-made framework. How can you possibly contain such a thing as love? We thank you, divine consciousness, non-binary force, masculine and feminine and masculine, all of these, between these and none of these, they who made us infinite in identity and form and desire to all in this community who are non-binary, non-conforming, queer questioning or alternative, who are fluid and defy human-made categories. I say this to you. Remember the ancestors who quite literally gave their lives so that we could be here together today in love, in safety. Hear them say to you each morning, rise, rise, my dear one, rise, my love, rise and show. For if you do not show up, I assure you, they will make it up. Rise, rise up, my love, my dearest, my treasure. And when you rise up in your truth, you will ascend to sit on the palm of your divine beloved. Amen, amen, ashe. It is so, aho, blessed be.
Please show me how to reach you. Strip me down, let go my mind. I was naked and blind. I'm finding it harder holding on to what's gone. Then there's the future. What if we never get that far? I know it may sound crazy if I say not much is real. Tell me inside, how do you feel? This is the time to break the mold of the old and dysfunctional way we have lived our life so far. How much longer can we hold on to that which tears us apart? So free up your mind, open your heart. No longer can we hold on to that which tears us apart. So free up your mind, open your heart. Finally free from self-disguise, I rise from the ashes of the me I used to know. You know that I am a dreamer, and I would like you to see that I am dreaming a new reality. show me how to reach you. Strip me down, let go my mind. I was naked and blind.
Thank you, beloved Shaw. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful song. Absolutely.
It's funny because I had another song sussed for the end, and I just felt it, and I thought this is the song. And I feel so blessed by all of the guests tonight. I was brought up in a very homophobic society, England, and very homophobic family. And what I realized is how it colored my whole life. My whole effing life has been colored because I wasn't exposed to the whole spectrum. And anyway, that's it. I'm gratefully, I'm so grateful. I have no words. I'm just grateful. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Katerina. Thank you, Emily and Trish and dudettes, and Erica. Far out. We are family. Thank you.
Beautiful show. Absolutely one of my favorite shows. Of course, I say that after almost every show, but I really mean it. Take care, everybody. Hopefully, I'll see you this weekend and have a beautiful, beautiful evening, and happy Pride. Good night, everybody.